Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and in today's video I am quilting the backgrounds to the blocks in the 12 Days of Christmas quilt. And most of the blocks have a unique design, a different design, but I do have a couple that are sharing the same design, and one of these is this tree block, and what I'm quilting in here is some stacked swirls. Now if you look in the picture in the left lower corner of your screen, you'll hopefully be able to see that a little bit better, but those swirls look like they're tucked one underneath the other, and I like that look especially on blocks like this because it makes it look like the wind blowing behind the tree here. So it's basically, you do a basic swirl and then you echo around it, but whenever you touch a seam or another part of the design you've already quilted, then you backtrack instead of completing that circle. So it makes them look like they're tucked one underneath the other. So to get from one point to the other, you do a little bit of backtracking, which is a lot of good practice to learn how to do some backtracking. And none of it is consistent as far as how I am, which direction I'm quilting those swirls in. Some are looking like they're pointing to the right and some are pointing to the left, but that's what I wanted. I wanted a look like that. I don't want it to all look the same. So I think this works out really well for this block here. And here is the completed block. The next block that I'm working on is the one with the gift boxes, and I did all straight line quilting on this one. I basically just started out with outlining the appliques in the block, so the small present, and then I went to the larger one and just outlined it. And I do use a ruler on this at one point, but at this point where I'm at right now, I didn't need the ruler. So, and I think right here is where I pull out my little ruler. This is my swirls, or my curved ruler, and it's about 6 inches long, so it worked really well. It's just a nice size to use on a project like this. Now this design, it fills up the space, and you've got the same look all the way up from the top of that small gift box all the way to the top. Now you don't have to do that. You could just do one or two outlines of that and then do something different in the background. You don't have to use the same quilting design all the way through your block. You can switch that out, but I was kind of on a roll and wanted to see how this would look, so I just kept doing the same design until I got to that end of the block. And then here is the completed block. And then the next block is the Christmas stocking, and on this one I just chose to do an echo all the way around the block. But this is another one that you could come up with any other kind of background filler that you'd like. So on this one I just went from one side to the other, and when I got to a point where I couldn't get to the other side of the stocking without backtracking through the ditch several times, I just completed that one side and then went to the other. So this one went really fast. Echoing is a pretty quick design if you don't have a lot of background, and there really isn't a whole lot of background in this block, so this design went pretty quick. And I did keep my stitch regulator on throughout the quilting in this quilt. And the thread that I am using is Signature 100% cotton, and the color is parchment. And here is the completed block. And the next block is the star block, and on this one I used my ruler. And I'm also doing an echo on this one, but I'm doing it a bit different because the echo stitching is not evenly spaced from one line to the other. So what I did was a 1/4 inch outline of the star to begin with, and then I spaced it out from that point on, and you can see that that design in the picture in the lower left hand corner on how I space those out. So we have 2 lines of stitching that are 1/4 inch apart, and then the next one is 1 inch away from that, and then a 1/4 inch, and then another inch. So I just repeated that all the way out from the edges of the star to the edges of the block. And here is the completed star block. The next block is the Cardinal block, and on this one I also did swirls, mostly because this had a lot of background to fill up, and it's also an image that is outdoors, so I thought another snowy, windy looking background would be good for this block. So I did it just like the other one. The swirls are stacked, and that is just stopping whenever I'd hit a seam or the edge of the block or another line of quilting, and then backtracking and going on to the next swirl or just a partial part of the swirl. So it's a very easy design to learn how to do, and I think it's very effective. And here is the completed Cardinal block. Now in the poinsettia block, there isn't very much background at all, and with this one you actually could just leave it the way it is without doing any background quilting in it. But since I had some fairly dense background quilting in the other blocks, I felt I needed to put something in here. So what I did was a simple echo. These are just echoed lines that are 1/4 inch apart, and I used the width of my hopping foot to judge how far apart those lines needed to be. And I just followed the outline of the appliques for the echo. And here's the completed poinsettia block. And the next block is the candle block, and on this one I decided to do a cross hatch in the background, and this cross hatch is 1 inch apart, and so I just used my fabric cutting ruler to mark that with an air soluble pen. So this pen does disappear after a short amount of time, just within probably about 2 hours that ink had all disappeared. Now you can see in the photograph in the left lower corner that I messed up on the quilting there. I completely skipped a line of the quilting, and then there are a couple that are too close together. So that's one where I have to go back and fix that, but that's not a big issue, so I will get around to that here probably tomorrow when I have some time. So once I have all this marked, it's just a matter of following the lines that I've drawn, and I just need to use my ruler and just follow those lines, and I just go from one line to the edge of the block, and then I backtrack until I get to the next closest line, and then I'll quilt that one. So there's no other plan other than that. I don't have it all worked out ahead of time as to how I can get around this block in one pass without breaking thread. I don't worry a whole lot about breaking thread. If I need to do that, then I'll do it. Most of the time all I need to do is to backtrack a little bit, and that's not a big issue either. And here's the completed candle block with all its mistakes in it. Now we get to the house block, and I did echoing in the background on this block, and I just followed the outline of the applique and used my hopping foot for spacing, so all the lines are approximately 1/4 inch apart. Now there isn't a whole lot of background on this block, so the quilting went extremely fast, and I think it turned out really well. And here is the completed house block. And the next block is the ornament, and I also did swirls in this one. Now this block has quite a bit of background that needs to be filled, so this is another good way to do that. And here's the completed ornament block. And then we have the angel block, and this one doesn't have a whole lot of background, and I decided that I would echo this block, and I'm just following all the curves around the applique using my hopping foot as my guide for spacing the echoes throughout the background. And there is a completed angel block. Now on the next couple of blocks, I lost the footage that I taped while I was quilting, but I'll just talk you through those. This is the bell block, and I decided to do a cross hatch on the background in this one, and as you can see, I didn't mess up the spacing of the lines in this one, so this one turned out really well. And then is the wreath block, and on this one I did an echo around the outside, and on the center I did a swirl. Now I'm not real happy with the swirl in there, so I may take that out and try that one again. And then here is the completed quilt. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.